Okay, here we are with Kate Douglas of Kensington Books. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to talk to me. So, your Wolf Tales series has been very, very popular, and you tell me there's a second generation.
There is, and like I told my editor, I said, there's a lot of sex in Wolf Tales. We're going to get babies, and we have a lot of babies, and they're all grown up in the second series. I'm calling it Spirit Wild, and the first book, To Love a Dark Wolf, will come out in May of 2013. And for those who followed the Wolf Tales series, it's Lily Cheval's story, and no, she does not end up with Alex. So, and I said that because everybody says, I want to hear Alex and Lily's story, and I thought, but she's not going to end up with Alex. And I knew that kind of from the beginning, so, things happen. I never know. When I sit down to write, I really don't know what I'm going to get. I don't plot, so I never really, it is a surprise. My poor editor, I let Audrey, she'll say, well, what's the book going to be about? I'll say, well, there's shapeshifters, and there's going to be a lot of sex, and it's going to have a happy ending.
Sold.
Yeah, seems to be working.
Exactly. Well, that's the most fun about writing.
It is.
To me, is just to see where the characters take you.
The discovery.
Yeah.
It's a real discovery, and I write what I call a deep point of view, where I kind of become my character, which when you're writing erotica is not bad. But I become the character, and well, what would happen? What are they doing? What are they thinking? And it seems to work. It's a lot of fun, and they all end up having different voices, which is nice. So.
You have a good imagination for that.
A sick mind.
Well, that
really
helps.
Sick mind.
Yeah. I find that happens with me too. It's like, where did that come from?
And do you ever get into when you're writing and all of a sudden you've been writing for an hour and you have no idea what you've written?
Yeah.
And you go back and read it and it's like, oh, it worked. What did I say? How did I do that?
Okay, so you also have a Dreambound, which...
That's the Dream Catchers series. And Dreambound, that actually started with a novella in the Night Shift anthology, which came out last November. And that takes place in 1992 and kind of sets up the characters and the premise for the series. It's only a 2-book series. I wrote Dreambound and Dream Unchained. And you can start with Dreambound if you haven't read the novella, but it's more science fiction. And I actually started out with science fiction. That was my first really popular series, was through Alora's Cave, and it was called Starquest. And I grew up on science fiction. We didn't have paranormal when I was a kid. I'm old. We had science fiction. So.
So are you a Trekkie?
Yes, I actually, by the time when I got to college, Star Trek was in, daytime at 4 o'clock, and I actually changed my college major because I didn't want to miss Star Trek reruns.
Wow, now that's intense.
But I've never been to a Star Trek convention, so I've missed those.
Maybe that should be on your bucket list.
Nah, that's a little over the top for me. I'd rather use my imagination than see some guy, going by wearing tights.
True.
Most men don't do tights well.
Dream Unchained. When does Dream Unchained come
Dream
out?
Unchained is the second book. It follows Dreambound. Dreambound just came out.
Okay.
And Dream Unchained, what it is the whole storyline is about an alien race that's been held as slaves. They're creatures of energy, and they've been held as slaves aboard a ship. They actually power the ship. And they're immortal. So they've been slaves forever. And finally one of their people escapes and goes back in time and meets this young computer geek. She's latched onto his mind because he's so brilliant, and she's latched onto his mind to his sexual fantasies because sexual energy is the strongest karmic energy in the universe.
Okay.
I said that, so it's got to be true. And
I believe it.
I do too. It works for me. But she goes back and she says, okay, once they get through the meet and greet and all of that, and she says, you have to rescue us, and it'll be 20 years from now. And if you don't, we're going to die because we are orbiting the moon right now in your future, and we're going to be powering the ship. It's going to rape the planet, and everyone will die. And so he spends the next 20 years, and when Dreambound opens, Mac Dugan, who is just the hottest hero. I actually found a picture online of an actor, and his name is Jesse Pavelka. And I saw this guy and I said, that's Mac. I just knew, and I had that mental image in my mind, and he was so good looking, and he has this killer smile, and I think that's what did it for me. So this Dreambound opens in the present, and Mac has brought together a team of 6 young people who have very strong telepathic abilities, and they are essentially going to use sexual fantasy to empower this race of creatures called Nereians and help rescue them. And the rescue doesn't happen until the final book. So I build it up and build it up, and I settle a lot of relationships in the first book, but the final book is the one that will actually tie up the entire storyline.
Great.
So
and how many books are in the series?
Just the two.
Okay.
The novella is part of the story, but if you haven't read the novella, it's not going to destroy the storyline.
Okay,
for you.
great. So on top of all of that, you're also EPUBing the Demon Lovers series.
Yes.
Is that right?
And my beta readers have said stop with the D titles. I'm confusing them. That's a series of shorts, and it's a young gal who's she's an accountant, and she tries to rescue a woman in the park one night, and this woman lunges for her throat and bites her in the throat, and she is suddenly not really dead and not really alive, and she's a demon hunter, and she ends up with two guys because it's a menage storyline. She ends up with two fellas who are demon hunters, and they work within dimensions. And each book, there are four so far. There's I have to stop and think: Unbalanced and Unbound and Unmasked, and I can't remember. Oh, Unleashed is the last one, and I'm not sure the title for the last one will tie them up. But each story is short. They're only about 15. They're under 20,000 words, and then they'll all go together as a bundled package when the fifth comes out.
Great, that sounds great.
It's fun.
You're working on a lot of fun stuff.
I've got, like I said, I've got a really warped mind, and it seems to work well sometimes. As long as I get fingers on keyboard,
Oh, sure.
That does
I think it's a warped mind that creates books is okay. It's when the warped mind is let free to do other things.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm channeling my warpedness. I don't think that's a word, but that's what I do. I channel it. It works, but it's I love fantasy. I just love saying "what if," and you never know where that "what if" is going to take you.
Right.
So it's always taken me great places. The Demon Slayer series, the one that came out through Zebra. I got that whole idea. I was with my husband up in Shasta County near Mount Shasta, and we walked into a crystal shop, and there was a little garden gnome out in front of the shop. And as I went in, I thought, what if garden gnomes were possessed by demons? What would happen? And the whole series kind of came to mind.
Wow.
It's like with Dreambound, with the Dreamcatchers series. We went and toured the Allen Array up in Hat Creek, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's Paul Allen, who was part of Microsoft at the very beginning. I spent millions of dollars building this array of satellite dishes that are receivers of signals, searching for signals from outer space. It's part of the SETI project. It's also used by UC Berkeley. But I was walking through this, and I thought, oh, what if you use those satellite dishes to send sexual fantasies out into space? And that's where Dreamcatchers came from. The whole series popped out. So, if you can let your imagination go, and if you don't have any filters that tell you that that's a bad thing to do, and obviously my filters are sorely lacking.
Well, lucky for readers.
I hope so, yeah. I do get emails sometimes saying, you've got a really strange way of doing things. And I think, well, but they're complimentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really fun. I just got an email last night from a great-granddaughter of Jim Chisholm from the Chisholm Trail, who's part Sioux, who said that reading wolf tales, that the Sioux mythology has a lot about shapeshifters, and she said I connected through that entire series with my history. And I thought, you don't know what readers are going to take from anything you write. It's so subjective, when they read.
I love that. That's a great.
It was pretty cool.
Good story. Well, thanks for joining us, Kate.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for talking.